somewhere in Northern California, between 1968 and 1969, a killer walked among ordinary people. He drove on the same roads, breathed the same air, and watched the same sunsets. But he was not ordinary. He was methodical. He was theatrical. And he wanted the world to know exactly who he was without ever telling them his name. He called himself the Zodiac. The murders began on a cold December night in 1968 near the shores of Lake Herman Road in Benicia, California. Two teenagers, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, were parked quietly in the dark when a gunman approached. David was shot in the head. Betty, just 16 years old, ran and was shot 5 times in the back. They were the first. They would not be the last. 7 months later, on the 4th of July, 1969, a couple sitting in a parked car at Blue Rock Springs Park were attacked again. Darlene Ferrin was killed. Mike Mageau survived, wounded but alive. Within minutes of shooting, the killer himself called the Vallejo Police Department. His voice was calm, almost bored. He told them exactly where to find the bodies and reminded them that he had also committed the Lake Herman Road murders. He was not hiding. He was announcing himself. Then came the letters. In late July of 1969, 3 newspapers across the Bay Area, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald, each received an identical letter. The writer claimed to be the killer. He described details of the murders that only the killer could have known. And attached to each letter was 1/3 of a 408 symbol cipher, a grid of strange symbols, backwards letters, and invented characters unlike anything investigators had seen before. He demanded the newspapers print the ciphers on their front pages. If they refused, he wrote, he would go on a killing rampage, claiming a dozen more victims over the weekend. The papers complied. The 408 cipher was cracked within days, not by the FBI, not by professional cryptographers, but by a high school teacher named Donald Harden and his wife Betty, sitting at their kitchen table. The message, once decoded, was chilling in its simplicity. The killer wrote that he was collecting slaves for his afterlife. He believed that when he died, those he had killed would serve him in paradise. He felt no remorse. He felt only power. But the killer had withheld his name. He had promised it was hidden in the cipher. It was not. Or if it was, no one ever found it. He signed his letters with a simple symbol, a circle with a cross through it, like a gun sight, like a target, the Zodiac. On the 27th of September 1969, the killer struck again, this time at Lake Berryessa in Napa County. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were picnicking near the water when a hooded figure approached them. He was wearing a black costume, hand-stitched, with the Zodiac symbol sewn onto the chest. He tied them up and stabbed them repeatedly. Cecilia died 2 days later. Brian survived. Before leaving, the killer calmly walked to their car and wrote the dates of his previous attacks on the door in black marker, followed by the words, "by knife." He was escalating. He was performing. 2 weeks later, on October 11th, a San Francisco cab driver named Paul Stine was shot in the head in the Presidio Heights neighborhood. Witnesses saw the killer wiping down the cab with a cloth before calmly walking away into the night. Police officers actually drove past the killer in the dark, having received an incorrect description of a black suspect when the killer was white. He vanished. Pieces of Paul Stine's blood-stained shirt were later mailed to newspapers as proof. By this point, the Zodiac was writing frequently. His letters were taunting, theatrical, sometimes incoherent. He claimed victim counts far higher than the confirmed 5. Some letters contained more ciphers, others contained threats. He wrote to specific detectives, to defense attorneys, even to celebrities. He threatened to shoot children on school buses. He described bombs he claimed he had built. The city of San Francisco trembled. And then, in 1969, came the cipher that has never been solved. Known today as the Z340 because it contains exactly 340 symbols. Investigators, military codebreakers, amateur enthusiasts, and professional cryptographers spent decades attempting to crack it. Then, in December of 2020, a team of 3 amateur codebreakers, David Orenchak from the United States, Jarl van Eyck from Belgium, and Sam Blake from Australia, announced they had cracked the Z340. Working across time zones, using custom software to analyze transposition patterns, they discovered that the cipher was read not in the usual way, but diagonally, in an alternating pattern that had never been tried before. The decoded message was haunting. The killer wrote that he was not afraid of the gas chamber because it would send him to paradise that much sooner, where he would be reborn. Again, he provided no name. Again, he left only darkness and riddles. 2 other ciphers remain completely unsolved to this day. One is a 1-3 symbol cipher sent in April of 1970, believed to contain the killer's name. The other, known as the Z32, is 32 symbols long and has never yielded a coherent message. Some experts believe they were never meant to be solved, that they were psychological tools designed to keep investigators chasing shadows forever. Suspects have come and gone over the decades. Arthur Lee Allen, a convicted ex-offender from Vallejo, was the most prominent, tied to the case by circumstantial evidence, physical descriptions, and even a watch bearing the Zodiac symbol. But DNA collected from stamps and envelopes on the killer's letters did not match Allen, and he died in 1992 with no formal charges ever filed. Others have pointed fingers at a man named Lawrence Kane, at a Gary Francis post, at figures now long dead. The case has never been officially closed. What makes the Zodiac so enduring is not just the unsolved murders or the unbroken ciphers. It is the feeling he manufactured, the sense that evil is not always a monster in the shadows. Sometimes it is a man who writes letters to newspapers, who calls police stations from payphones, who stitches his own costume and wears it to a lakeside picnic, and who believes, with full sincerity, that death is just a doorway to a kingdom of slaves. The last confirmed Zodiac letter arrived in 1974. After that silence, whether he died, was imprisoned for an unrelated crime, or simply stopped, no one knows for certain. Somewhere in those unbroken symbols, in those 13 characters no computer has yet unraveled, the answer may still exist. A name, a confession, a final act of theater from a man who spent his life performing for an audience he despised. The Zodiac was never caught. The ciphers are not all broken, and the circle with the cross through it, that cold, simple symbol, still sits in police files, staring back at everyone who looks.